Welcome back. Now what we're going to do is we're going to work on the ceiling of our house here. So if I pull out here, we've already got the front entrance done. We've got doors and windows and all kinds of things. What we need to do is work on the ceiling now. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So let me select the object here. And we need to start building the ceiling. If we look at this from the inside up, we can see that we have no ceiling at all. So let's go ahead and start building that. And building the ceiling is going to be pretty easy. I'll just go to edge mode. And watch this, it's just going to be the same process of extruding edges and then using target weld to go ahead and close those edges up and basically create ourselves some geometry for the ceiling. Now to work a little bit easier, notice that since the ceiling is facing away from me, it's a little bit difficult to see here with the back face cull turned on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my quad menu here, go to my object properties, and I'm going to take back face cull off, and now I can actually see my ceiling geometry, which is going to help me out a little bit more. Okay, so let's continue building this ceiling here. I'm going to select that edge right there, pull that out, use the target weld method. Okay, take this edge and pull this one out like so, and take this edge here and pull this one out. Going to go to, let me see, go to vertex mode. I'm going to go to target weld. I'm going to target weld those two little vertices right there. Go back to edge mode. Pull this one out right here. I'm going to go to target weld. Weld these two together. Take this one and weld it to the big one. Okay, over here I have some extra edges that I don't need. As you can see, I have this edge and this edge, which I don't really need. So what I'm going to do is go to vertex mode, go to target weld, and I'm going to weld this vertex here to that one there. And it might be a little bit hard for you to see which vertices I'm talking about simply because they're tiny, tiny little blue dots, and it may be hard to see in the video. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go up to the Customize menu. I'm going to go to Preferences. And we see we have lots of different tabs to control lots of different preferences in 3ds Max. Well, if we go to Viewports, the Viewport tab, we have a Show Vertices as Dots parameter, which is good. But we have a size parameter. So right now the size is set to 2. So let's increase that to about 4. So we'll double the size of the vertices. Hit OK. And now you can see that the vertex ticks are much larger than before, making them a little bit easier for you to see. So it's a neat way to customize 3ds Max visually to help you out in case those vertex dots are too small by default. So I'll go back to target weld and I'll target weld that vertex to the one in the corner. Alright, there we go. I'm going to take this edge right there, pull that one out, go to target weld, fill in that gap right there, there we go. Let's take this edge here and pull this one out. And I'll take this edge right here, pull this one out, go to target weld the small one to the big one. Okay. You go to vertex mode and move that, make sure it's, you can see here this isn't connected right there. That's not a problem though. I'll go to target weld that vertex to the one in the corner. There we go. That problem is solved. Okay. Let's take this edge here and extrude that one out. Then we'll go to target weld and target weld the one on the right to the one on the left, and there we go, that's done. Okay. And before I continue further here, I'm going to start to build this big area over here. Okay. But before I do, something very important. Let me go to the quad menu. Let's go to Unhide by Name. And we want to unhide the ceiling blueprint. Here it is, ceiling. That's why it's so good to name everything in your scene, so it makes your job a lot easier. So here's my ceiling blueprint, okay? As you can see, if I go to a top view, what this represents is that we're going to have to cut pretty much a hole this size here into our top ceiling. So it would be very smart of us to build our ceiling geometry right now. Let me go back to perspective view. To build our ceiling geometry to cater to this very large opening in the ceiling that's going to be for the skylight. Alright, so how do we do that? Well, we do that right now as soon as we start building the geometry for this part of the ceiling. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to edge mode and I'm going to select this edge right there and this edge right there. So it's basically that edge at the far end right there and this edge that's directly across it. I'm going to go to my graphite modeling tools and let's go to the edges menu. And over here we have this option to insert vertices. I'm going to change that option to 2 and then I'm just going to click on insert vertices one time. And we can see in our viewport that we have 2 vertices per edge. So this edge now got pretty much split up with these 2 vertices, and we added 2 vertices to this one as well. Okay, so that's a good thing. I'm going to go to edge mode. I'm going to select that edge and that edge. I'm going to extrude these. Now I'm going to come inside the house here, and I want to select this edge and get rid of it. Now it's a little bit hard to see because the back face cull is turned off, and we really can't see the edge right there. We could go to see-through mode, which helps. But let me do this instead. Let me take all the polygons that belong to the floor and temporarily hide them out of view so that they don't get in my way and annoy me while I work. So how can I do that? Well, I can go to a front view, okay, and let me go to wireframe mode here. And what I can do is go to polygon mode, and let's turn ignore back facing off so I can select all the polygons. And I'll just make a selection of all the floor polygons, which I know are down there. But I have a problem. The problem is I end up selecting everything. Okay? Well, there's a way to fix this. In 3ds Max, we have 2 different ways to select objects. We can select them the regular way, or we can use this option up here. This button that's right up here next to the move, the select and move tool, is called the window crossing tool. Okay? And when you turn it on, it turns yellow, and you can see that there's a cube inside of what appears to be a marquee selection. Okay? And a marquee selection is simply this rectangle that I draw out whenever I'm selecting something. So let me quickly demonstrate how this works. Let me come out here and I'm going to create a polygon plane. Okay, there we go. There's a plane. Let me convert it to an editable poly. Alright, so I can go to polygon mode and you can see I can select the polygons here very easily. Okay, let me turn window crossing off. This is the default behavior we've been using so far. And when I go ahead and I make a marquee selection like this and I drag a rectangle out, whatever polygons touch this rectangle in my viewport becomes selected, as you can see. Even if a small little corner of that polygon touches my marquee selection, it becomes selected. When I turn on the window crossing feature, it doesn't matter if a small corner or even a large corner or even half of the polygon touches the marquee selection, it does not become selected. That's because this allows you to select objects by encompassing the whole thing. So in order to select, say, this polygon that's right there in the middle, I can't do it by simply dragging a marquee selection, touching it. I have to actually drag a marquee selection and it has to go around the entire object. The whole object has to fit completely inside the marquee selection for it to be selected. So you can see how window crossing can actually be pretty useful in a situation like this. So let me delete that polygon plane. Let me go back to a front view. Let me go to wireframe here. Let me select the actual house and go to polygon mode. Make sure ignore back facing is turned off. That way we can select all the polygons that we need to. And with the window crossing turned on, let's just do a marquee selection of what we know is the floor down here. Okay? And it appears that nothing happened in the front view here. But let's go to the perspective view, and we can easily see in wireframe mode all of the polygons on the floor have been selected. Perfect. So now we'll just go to our visibility options up here in the graphite modeling tools and hit hide selected. Go back to our smooth shaded mode, and we can see that the floor is now hidden away, and this is going to make my life a lot easier, as you can see. Okay, so let's continue here. I'm going to take that edge that I originally wanted to get rid of. Hit Control and Backspace to get rid of it. Okay. Now, if I go back to my front view and go to wireframe mode, I'm going to immediately notice that there's something wrong with the roof or the ceiling. Right here, everything appears to be perfectly straight, but then we get here, and we notice that there's there's a problem. At some point in time, I accidentally moved a vertex or two incorrectly up or a little bit higher, and I pretty much messed up the alignment of the vertices up there on the ceiling, but that's okay. We'll just zoom out here. Let's take window crossing off for the moment. We don't need it. And what we'll do is we'll just select all the vertices on the roof on the top there, okay? And we can see that they're uneven. Some are higher than others. Let's go to perspective view. And to fix this is going to be pretty easy. We'll just use the align tool. So up here in graphite modeling tools, we'll go to the align menu and we'll align this in the Z. Once we do that, if we go back to the front view, you notice that all the vertices and the subsequent edges are aligned perfectly straight without a problem. Okay. Now by doing that, I did move my vertices a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to activate the move tool. And I want to make sure that my selection mode here is set to selection center. Okay. Open up the transform type in tool. And we can see that my Z for all these vertices is 20 feet and a little bit of change right there. I want to make sure this is 20 feet flat. Okay. And it says 19 feet 12 inches, which is 20 feet. So that's fine. Okay. If I go to the front view, I can confirm that visually. Looks good. Go back to perspective view. Okay, so let me close that transform type in tool. Alright, so let's continue here with the ceiling. What I'm going to do is in vertex mode, and activate the target weld tool. I'm going to weld this vertex on the right to the one on its left, and on this other wall, I'm going to weld that one to that one. Okay, there we go. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to edge mode here. Select this edge, pull it out like so. I'm going to pull it out like again. I'm going to go to target weld and target weld this edge right here to that one. And over here, just to seal this up, let me go to target weld with vertices. Just target weld that right there. Okay, that looks good. All right, and next thing I'm going to do, go to edge mode. I'm going to select that edge right there. And I'm going to pull it out like so. I'm going to go to target weld. And I'm going to target weld that new edge to the far side wall over there. Okay. Let me go to edge vertex mode. Move this around just to make sure that I don't have a hole. It's good. Alright. Let me go back to edge mode here. Select this edge. Extrude it out like so. And what I'm going to do here is go to target weld again and target weld that edge to the wall. Okay, right here I'm almost done. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select this edge here and I'm going to go back up here to my edges menu in the graphite modeling tools, and I'm going to insert one vertex. So I'll hit one vertex right there, and I'll go to target weld in vertex mode and target weld that new vertex to that one over there. And then what I have here is basically an area where I can just fill this up with a simple polygon. So that's what I'll do. I'll just go to polygon mode. I'll go to my quad menu, go to create, and I'll just create myself a polygon that fills in that gap nicely. Okay, there we go. Perfect. So that ceiling is done. If I want to, I could clean this up a little bit. For example, I have an extra edge there that I don't need, so I'll get rid of that. And everything else looks pretty good. I'm going to leave the rest of it alone. Or actually, just to clean this up a little bit more, I'll go to target weld and target weld those vertices right there. Okay, now I'm going to leave it alone. I'm not going to fiddle with that anymore. Now if I go to the top view, I can see here that here is the blueprint for my hole, basically, the ceiling detail that I have to punch through. And now I have this edge which I purposely created here. Okay, and you can see when I moved it, something happened right there, something strange. So let me see what that's about. Let me go back to perspective view. Let me move that, and you can see that I have some kind of okay, that's what's happening here. I have basically an opening right there. There's some subcomponents there that are not connected or whatnot. And if I take that vertex, I'm willing to bet that it's right here. Yep, that's the problem right there. So that's going to be pretty easy to fix. Here's what I'm going to do. I probably have open holes all over my model. And that's actually very easy to see. If I go up to Views, the View menu, and I go to X View, I have a multitude of different options here for selecting. Basically, this tool set allows me to see different possible flaws in my geometry. For example, I could check for overlapping faces, open edges, isolated vertices, missing UVW coordinates, and etc. etc. Right now I want to check out open edges. So I'll click on that, and you'll notice that it tells me up here that I have open edges. I have 116 open edges. And the open edges are shown in your viewport. They're highlighted in green. Very important. So I can see here in the ceiling that I have an open edge that runs across here, and down this way. So how can we fix these open edges quickly and easily? Well, let's go to vertex mode and hit Control-A to select all the vertices of the object. Then we'll go to the quad menu, and we see the weld tool here. Let's go to the options. Okay, take the weld threshold, knock it down all the way to 0, and it tells you the number of vertices before the weld operation is 527, after is 522. Let's increase the weld threshold just one time a little bit, so it's 0.01, a very small amount. Now it tells you that you've decreased the amount of vertices from 522 to 502, so we've knocked out 20 vertices, okay? And if we were to hit OK, you'll notice that some of these green edges disappeared. That's because some of those open edges are now gone. We could see up here now it's telling us that open edges, we don't have 112 or whatever it was. We have 79, okay? So it's fine. We're not going to be able to get rid of every single open edge, at least not yet, okay? So we can see here in the area that I was working on, the area that I care about at the moment, it's no longer green edges. Now we have white edges, which means that that area is sealed and is good to go. Okay. So I can right click on top of where it says open edges over here for the X view, and I could toggle the open edges off, basically turning off the X view. You can also do that by going up to Views, X view, and toggling off whatever you want to toggle off. Okay. So X view is now off. Let's go back to the top view. I can now take this edge right here, and I can pull it this way. Not going to worry about precision too much right there. Let me go to wireframe view. We can see here, and it's a little bit hard to see. Let me take the blueprint here for the ceiling detail. And I'm going to change the color from this dark brownish color to maybe like this bright green, just so that it's easier to see in the video. There we go. So let me go back to the house. I'll take that edge again. And I can see that this edge is going to be the one that's right there, pretty much on top of that edge right there of the ceiling blueprint. This edge is going to be the one on the far end over here. But there's a problem. It's not straight like the edge on the left over here. It's slanted, which is not very good. So, what can I do about that? Well, I can use the Align tool to fix that. Let's do it. Let's come up here to the Graphite Modeling Tools, go to Align, and we'll align this in the X-axis. And there we go. It's perfectly aligned. Now, if I go to the top view, go to Wireframe, I can see it's a perfect straight edge. Let me go to Perspective View to make sure when I move that edge, I didn't accidentally mess up any of the geometry or topology inside. Okay, looks good. All right, excellent. Let's go back to the top view here. Go to wireframe mode. Okay, so now I'm going to line up those edges with the blueprint here. So we're going to use the same technique that we've been using before. Open up the Transform Type In tool. Select the far edge. Take the X coordinate. Copy it. Go back to the house geometry, select that edge, and paste the new X coordinate there, which will place it perfectly for you. Go back to the blueprint, select this far edge over here on this side, copy the X coordinate there. Let's take this edge and paste that edge right there. Perfect. Okay, so now that we have that done, we know that we have to create some horizontal edges here that are going to run across here to represent these top and bottom edges there of the ceiling. So let's select these two edges. Let's go to a quad menu. We'll go to connect options. We know we need 2 segments. Let's use the pinch just to place it a little bit better, like so. That's fine. And we'll use the same technique. Select the blueprint, select that top edge, for example, take the Y coordinate, copy it, go back to the house geometry, paste the new Y coordinate, go back to the blueprint, copy the Y coordinate of this bottom edge over here, go back to the house geometry, and paste the new Y coordinate right there. Perfect. Okay, so that's done. So now we have a perfect polygon there. So if we go to back to our perspective view, we can see that we now have a polygon positioned perfectly, basically to use as the starting geometry to create this ceiling detail there. Let me go ahead and open up the concept image just to show you what it is that we're going to be building here. Editor, you can edit this part out of the video. Editor, we're back, starting again in 3, 2, 1. So here's our concept image here of the ceiling detail. We can see what we have to build here, sort of in this visual conceptual view, okay? Basically, it's sort of this kind of stepped extrusion where we extrude one part, move it up, extrude another part, move it up, extrude another part, and move it up. And then we're going to punch a hole here through the ceiling to basically create our skylight for the roof. Okay, so we can see it's kind of like an inverted step. So let's close that concept image and see what we need to do here. If we go to the front view here, we can see the side blueprint right there. What we need to do is extrude this polygon that we just created upwards so it matches up with this blueprint. Let's go to wireframe mode here. So since I have the since I have the polygon right there, all I need to do is extrude it. So I'll right click, go to the extrude options, okay? And I need to extrude it using the extrusion height here. I'm just going to pull it like this and go to the front view to use this as a guide. So there's my polygon right there. And you can see how I can interactively move the slider. And it's going to have to be about -1 foot. So I'll go -1 for the extrusion. And you can see that's about what it is. It makes the perfect extrusion right there. Now you can choose group, local, normal, or polygon. It's not really going to make a difference in this case because this polygon is facing straight up and it's just one polygon, not a group of them. So I'll hit OK. So there we go. There's our first extrusion. Now let's go to the top view here. And we know that we need to basically get this to extrude in like this to create this shape right there. And if I go to the perspective view here, I can see what I have to do. There's my blueprint line. I have to get this basically right there. So how do I do that? Well, I don't do that with an extrusion. I do that with the inset tool. So let's go to the inset options. And I'll keep it set to group. That's fine. And with the inset amount, we can come in here and we can change the inset. You can see how the inset is basically scaling this polygon in with its own extrusion. And if I go to the top view, I can get pretty close here. And I can see that this allows me to get pretty close there to the blueprint. I'm going to say I'm happy with that. If I go to the perspective view, I can see it right there. Now let me go to the front view. I'll hit OK. And I'll go to extrude options again. And you notice that it extruded it automatically correctly. Perfect. Because it remembered my last settings, which was -1 foot. So it just extruded it 1 foot up. So I'll hit OK. And now I have to inset again. So I'll go to the quad menu, I'll go to the inset options, and because it kept my previous settings, so it's insetting it about 1 foot 4 inches, so I'll hit OK. Then I'll go ahead and extrude again, and I don't have to go to the options again, I'll just hit extrude because I made a mistake. Go back to that. Editor, edit there. The video starting again. 3, 2, 1. So we'll go ahead and we'll extrude this again, go to the extrude options, and there you go, it pulls it up. Go to the front view and we can see that it's pulling it up correctly. Okay, perfect. Alright, so we'll hit OK and we're done. If I come in here to my perspective view, I can see that I have that same step extrusion formation from the concept image pretty much done. Now this top polygon I don't need anymore, so I have to punch a hole through the ceiling, so I'll just hit delete to get rid of it, and there we go. That part is done. Okay, so the inside part of the ceiling is completely finished. Now what I need to do is create the outside roof and finish this off, but we'll do that in the next video.